Right, here we are then, and welcome to, in my world anyway, Saturday, August the 17th in the Riverina, which is in New South Wales, breadbasket of New South Wales, possibly of the country. And my name's Tony Bosworth, and I'm editor of the West Wyalong Advocate. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of freestyling today. You know, this is what rappers do when they just get on stage and tell a story, and it all supposedly rhymes or whatever. A little bit like Sade, if you remember her. Lyrics for her songs are very, very simple. And I remember Lenny Henry, the British comedian, taking a mickey out of it, and dressed up like her, and you wouldn't be able to do that now. I was going to actually, that's stupid. I was just going to say you wouldn't be able to do that now, dressing up as a black woman, but he actually was a black bloke. So I suppose it was kind of all right. Can you get away with that? I guess you probably can. Anyway, who knows these days? Who knows? But anyway, he did a takeoff of her, and it was, I've got a smooth alligator in my refrigerator, because things were very simple. What are lyrics they're called? Lyrics are very simple, right? It was quite amusing. Anyway, there you go. All good. So I'm going to do a bit of freestyling like rappers do and just basically chatter away. Now, you may think I do that every time I'm on. It may seem like I do, but actually I do plan most of these things fairly well. I'm not really doing that with this one. I've not been having a good day today, not really. I'm not going to go into that too much. I'm not going into it at all. But anyway, there we go. Yesterday, just to kick the freestyling off, I had a drink in the pub with a bishop, Anglican bishop, Stuart Robinson, really good bloke actually. He used to be the Bishop of Canberra, and he's come here to West Wyalong, this little town of 3,000 people, to be the sort of standing Anglican priest, I suppose. But yeah, he's a vicar. He's a bishop. Lovely bloke, really lovely bloke. Very intelligent. He told me he'd sent 2 men to prison. Yeah, paedophile people in the church. He was quite proud of that. He sounded like a policeman. I sent them down. So good for him. Anyway, a couple of things I wanted to talk about really. So let's get this one out of the way first. So I don't like to blow my own trumpet, right? I find it quite hard. I think it's probably an English thing. We're not cut out for talking about ourselves in a positive way. We usually putting ourselves down, I suppose, and we do that to the country often as well, don't we? And all this. Anyway, I'll keep trying to get out of that. Australians, they don't big themselves up too much, to be fair, except for this bloke who used to work for me. So there's this guy, he's a journalist, right? Now, when he came to the Barrier Truth newspaper, which I worked on before I was here, so, only a year ago, actually. In fact, it's almost exactly a year since I left there. And so he came there. He really hadn't done any proper journalism at all. He'd done a 3-year communication degree. Geez, I could talk about that for a while. Those things are bloody useless if you want to become a journalist, right? You need to be doing practical journalism if you go to college or uni. And in Australia, there are hardly any of those courses. It is a real problem because he said to me, this guy, this journalist, let's call him Stuart because that's his name. And he said that he'd learned more off me in a year working on the paper than he had in 3 years in university. And that would be right. I've taught at University of Westminster in Britain, also at Lambeth College and College of the South Bank. I think they changed the name to the South Bank Polytechnic or something. I don't know, whatever. But in Lambeth anyway. Lambeth College, I think it was called when I was there. And I've also been editor-in-chief at the Australian College of Journalism. And yeah, that's it. I've done a few things teaching. I like teaching. I like imparting my knowledge. I really enjoy doing it. Anyway, so there's a couple of things out of this. I was talking to somebody. So I was okay, let's go back a sec. Let's talk about Stewie first. Get that out of the way. It's a simple thing. So I went online because I wanted to find out what he was up to at the moment, right? Because I text him every now and again, but I heard that he was back in Broken Hill and there was going to be a revitalized Broken Hill paper, which I was interested in. And I thought, I'll see if he's got anything up online about it, which he hasn't. But the interesting thing I discovered is that he's been populating a load of sites and things with things that he's done. But some of those things are things that I've done, right? For example, he was editor there for 2 months, and they put him in the position because I left, right? Basically, they wouldn't pay me any more money. So I couldn't get an annual pay rise. Nobody could, right? It was ridiculous. obviously the paper's closed down now, and that's one of the reasons. You couldn't keep running it, right? It was losing money. That's a whole other separate story. Anyway, so he was there for 2 months, and then he left, and then I actually went back there working. I suppose you'd call it freelance, really, but full time. Well, while I was doing this job full time as well, that was a moment, I can tell you. That went on for about 3 or 4 months. Anyway, so I was looking online, and I saw on Wikipedia that he was the editor of the Barrier of Truth. He'd left that on there, right? He's only there for 2 months. He must have gone on there straight away and put his name in as editor. Oh, proud I am, right? Okay, all right, fair enough. Muckrack. This is a thing where it has journalist bios on, right? And they drag stuff off the internet. Like, for example, I haven't put my own bio up there. I just don't do that stuff. They drag things off the internet. In this particular instance, he's typed it all in. He's put it all in, right? So we used to have this thing on the paper called the Wrap, which is an idea that I came up with because I'd done it elsewhere, right? And it was basically every week, it's a video wrap-up of the news of the week. It's only a few minutes, right? A couple of minutes tops. And then you put it up on, Facebook, or you put it on your website, and it pulls people, the theory is it pulls people in to then read the stories on the website or in the newspaper, right? And it's very successful. So that was that. I came up with a name, came up with a concept, and then the first few we did was me and him together. After a while, I said, I'll let him do it himself, okay? Because I've got the paper to run. He's a journalist. He's learning. Let him do it. He's pretty good. He did a couple of podcasts. So he's kind of good on this sort of stuff. Anyway, he put on his Muckrack profile that he had launched the Wrap on YouTube, which is nonsense. Unbelievable. The things people say and do, to make themselves look better. He also said that he was whenever the editor-in-chief, there never was an editor-in-chief. I was editor, right? I guess he's referring to me. When the editor-in-chief was away, he stood in for him. It's absolute nonsense. Once I went on holiday for 2 weeks, and he did stand in then, right? And that was it. That was it, right? But he really wasn't a real editor. There's no way. He had, what did he have? A year and a half experience? Actually, probably not even that much. Anyway, I don't want to sound sour about it, which maybe it's coming across like that, but I just don't like it when people exaggerate and also take credit for things that other people have done. It's not a good look, is it? Not a good look at all. Anyway, I was talking to this bishop about it, the Bishop of Canberra, as he was, and I was talking to him, and he didn't really have an answer either. So I'm guessing God doesn't have an answer to this. I don't know, but I said maybe it's karma, and he said there'll be some karma. So let's see what happens with that one. Yeah. Anyway, so what else was I going to talk about? Oh, yeah. So I was on this panel this last week. Hey, maybe Stewie will say he was on it as well eventually. I was on this panel. We did it online, remote, right? Zoom. Was it Teams or Zoom? It was Zoom. And this was UTS had set this up with The Guardian, the ABC, and me, right? And the reason I was on it was because it was talking about regional journalism, and this is where I find myself. The bishop said to me, he said, I did a bit of a Google search on you before I came down here to have a drink with you, and I was wondering. The big question in my mind was, what are you doing in West Wyalong? I had no answer really. It's a question I've asked myself. I mean, most people in their working lives, they kind of start off, don't they, at the bottom, if you like, and they go up. I've done that. Yeah, I've done that. I've been up there, but now I seem to be back down here, almost in the gutter, really. Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty sobering thought for me, really, because I thought, yeah. Anyway, so I could tell you the whole story of all of it, but it's a bit boring. I'm not going to do that just at the moment. But and it wouldn't be entertaining either, I don't suppose. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Anyway, here I am, I suppose. Anyway, I was on this panel, and well, it was frustrating, I've got to say, right? Because, and this comes around in the end to people bragging about stuff as well. Basically what the Guardian were doing with the help of UTS, right? They had a deal where they would try and place journalists, about 5 or 6 of them, I think, who were at UTS. So these were people, well, they weren't journalists, right? They were trainees. They'd had no real experience. And they placed them on a few newspapers in the regions. Now, the real point of this was that these folks who went to the regions, these students, right? They only had to write 2 stories a week. I brought this up at the panel. They had to write 2 stories a week for the paper, and the rest of the time they were doing Guardian work, right? So that enabled them to do longer form articles, for example. They had the time on their hands. Most newspapers, I said to them, I said, look, I probably write 5 or 6 stories a day. It's at least that, right? Unless I'm doing one big one. Even if I'm doing one for the front page, it's probably only going to take me about 20 minutes, half an hour, once I've got all the quotes and everything, let's say half an hour. And so I said, well, it's not a lot of use. Anyway, they were sort of going on about regional papers a bit and, oh, yeah, regional papers, they don't cover a lot of stories. And I'm thinking, well, I said, well, they don't have the staff now. You're lucky, you're the Guardian people, because, you got plenty of money coming in, right? They got something like 200 staff now in Australia, right? It's massive, I like the Guardian. I contribute to the Guardian through a donation every month. But yeah, there's a disrespect, if you like, almost for regional journalists. Like, oh, they're a bit dumb and they don't cover stories and they avoid things and all of this sort of thing. This panel really, I found it a bit frustrating because it was really mainly about how regional stories get told in metro papers and how do they get them, right? Well, why should we be doing them? The people in the regions, why should we be doing them? People in the metro areas, they might be interested in those stories, but what's the point? What's in it for me, as they would say, right? I'm all for spreading good journalism, but there's nothing in it for me. There's nothing in it for me at all. I've done a couple of these pieces for the Guardian, and based on stories that I'd done on other papers, on the Hawkesbury Post, for example. And the problem is with it is the story you do for your local paper is fine, right? It stands alone, but they want more. So if you do a story, I did a story on the fact that there was a big holdup for people who wanted to do their driving tests, right? These young folks. And many of them in the regions, they really need to pass their driving test because there's no public transport, right? And the distances are large. So it's very, very important for them to be able to get a driving test, right? Anyway, so I did it for the Guardian as well, but of course I had to dig up 4 or 5 other people from other areas, who are also having this same issue. So it takes ages to do. And in the meantime, you're not doing your normal, day job, if you like. So it's not a real great advantage for us, apart from, a little bit of a boost to your ego. Well, Stewie would love it, actually. Getting your name in the Guardian, for example, right? Anyway, that was that. But then, day and a bit later, I think, no more than 2 days later, I get a call from a university lecturer, right? And she says, oh, look, I got your name from the ABC guy at the panel, and he said, you'd be a good person to speak to about regional news, which is great, But anyway, I said, yeah, that's fine. And it was on Monday. I was in the office, and nobody's in the office Monday apart from me. I said, look, I could do it now if you want. And she said, oh, could we do a Zoom? I said, yeah, that's okay. Sent me the link, gets on. So she explains who she is. One of the first things she says, even the bishop said to me, did she really say that? And I said, yeah, absolutely. One of the first things she said was, look, I'm the world-renowned expert on regional newspapers and regional news. And I teach journalism as well at my university. And I wanted to ask you these questions, So basically what I figured out in the end is, firstly, that kind of took me aback, and it shouldn't, because I'm a journalist, and I should really have said, really? Why are you the internationally known person, right? Well, she is, because that's why she's punting herself, right? I expect Stuart will soon be saying he is, one of these. He's the expert, maybe. Yeah, probably. But anyway, I was talking to her. That's okay. I don't mind giving my advice and giving my experience. But then I thought to myself, I'm giving her all this stuff, and what she's going to do is she's going to put it in some kind of, she's already got a PhD, doctorate, she's going to be putting it in something, and it's all going to be her work, right? It's all going to be her work. But she couldn't do it without people like me. Anyway, it got me down a little bit when I was thinking about it afterwards, and I thought, yeah, I don't know. I should be doing it myself, right? Thing is, nobody's watching. But that's the point. I know about these things. I know about regional journalism. I'm actually living it, eating it, breathing it all day, every day. I'm here. Can you hear that bloke out there revving his car up? Anyway, it sounds like somebody grumbling. It's so low, that engine note or the exhaust note. Anyway, that's about it, really. I'm going to talk a bit more about AI soon, though, as well. I'll just leave you with this. So I've got this course on Udemy. That's Udemy, and it's a platform. It's an American platform for courses. So if you were, say, you're a journalist like me, you can put a course up. It's video courses, and I put one up, the Complete Guide to Journalism, right? Now, it's been up there a couple of years or so, and it's had over 4,500 students. There he goes. 4,500 students go through the course, and it's got a really good rating on Udemy. It's 4.5, I think, out of 5. It's one of their best-selling courses, etc., etc. Anyway, they send this email, as they do to people, about changes to the terms and conditions. I will talk about it in more detail at another time, but basically the thing is this. What they're saying is, unless you opt out, right, and that's a process and a half, they are going to start using AI to take content from everybody's courses, right? Well, you can see where that's going. Where that would be going, well, I'll give them the idea if they don't have it, because, it's obvious to me. But what they're going to do is they're going to trawl and scour all of these courses, and then they'll come up with a course and they'll go the Complete Guide to Journalism, whatever. They'll have to probably change the name. Maybe they won't. And what will happen is that they'll have a course up there, probably with an avatar who looks a lot more attractive than me, I suspect, basically giving my course out. And what benefit am I going to get from that? Nothing at all, right? They don't need me, do they? Once they've done that, once they've taken that content. So I've got to make sure I'm doing something on here live all the time. I wish that guy had shut up with the car. It's really irritating. Anyway, deep breath. Yeah, I've got to get my act together here and start doing a bit more about journalism, because I know about it. And if you want to be a journalist, or even if you're just interested in journalism and how the media works and how we go about things, I hope it's something you tune into, because I reckon it's a really important subject, and I'm passionate about it. And I can give lots of examples of things that happened to me and that have fashioned the way that I do things, which I've got to say is the right way. It's definitely the right way. So anyway, yeah, so we'll see how we go with that. But look, I'm going to cook some food now. I'll tell you what I'm doing tonight, right? Broccoli, mushrooms, onions, garlic, chili. That's it. I was going to have some pasta or some rice, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to cut out the carbohydrates slightly, only because I'm actually putting on a massive amount of weight. I'll talk about that actually soon as well, because when I'll just leave you with this great sight in your mind. When you walk past, there's a moment, right? You walk past a window in a shop, shopping center window or something, or you see yourself in the mirror, right? And you realize it's you, but you're fat. Okay. So I've got this big stomach, Now, it's a heavy investment, actually. I've spent a lot of time on beer building this stomach up, but the time has come when I have to get it down. Anyway, this time round, I didn't have this moment of seeing myself in the mirror. It was worse than that, right? I was at a council, I'll call it a meeting. I've talked about this before, where they're talking about, how to make the town centre more attractive and all that. And they were videoing a bit of it and walking around doing bits of video. And I was there because I was covering the story, right? And they got a picture of me, which they put on Facebook, right? I'm at the end of the row and I'm leaning back in my chair and I've got this great big belly, right? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. It looks like a whale. It looks like a whale is under my jumper, right? And I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, apart from the fact that it's quite embarrassing, although I don't really care about that. It's nobody's business but mine. And I thought, oh my God, I've just got to lose weight. This is absolutely dreadful. What a dreadful thing. And I've not been feeling well. And I know from the past, all I need to do is cut out drink, booze. Like, I love beer, that's all. Cut out the booze, and also don't eat anything like crisps or chips, as you call them in some countries for some strange reason. I think I've talked about that before. Yeah, so I've got to do that. I'll talk about that more. Anyway, listen, I've got to go because I've got to cook something, and I'm going to a couple of things tomorrow. I'll just tell you, RSL, Returned Servicemen's League, right? They are holding a thing in this little village, Ungary, tomorrow because it's their 100th anniversary. Can you believe, right? And they're going to get a bit of a, I was going to say parchment. They're going to get a certificate, probably is on parchment, from somebody or other. So I'm going down to photographs of that. But then I'm going to another village, which is about 50 kilometers from there. Hungary is 50 kilometers from here, called Withali. That's right. That's how you pronounce it, Withali. And they've got a show on. So this is a first of the kind of spring shows. Not that we're quite into spring yet, but we're still in winter, although it's quite nice out. But yes, I'm going to those two events tomorrow. I should have gone this morning early to a breakfast thing where the Variety Club were driving through West Wyling and stopping for breakfast at one of the schools. Really should have gone. Set the alarm, woke up at about 4 o'clock, knackered, and I thought, I'm not getting up. Turn the alarm off, and I eventually woke up at 10 o'clock this morning, which was nice. It was nice. You got to have a break. I haven't had a holiday in 10 months, not a single day off, apart from these days I snatch every now and again, but I don't have weekends. Anyway, I'm not whinging about that. All right. I'll talk to you again soon if you happen to be passing by. And yeah, have a good evening, morning, or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. And we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye. Oh, and take care.